Okay, everyone. Today, I'll be understanding why I'm going to get my review ready on time for the nick of time. As today, just because January is coming to an end, we're going to celebrate the 65th anniversary of Alvin and the Chipmunks. But it's not without my idea of wanting to review these two movies for today. As I know I've waited probably too long for me to understand these movies, we need to tackle both Alvin and the Chipmunks meet Frankenstein and Alvin and the Chipmunks meet the Wolfman. So the plot of these two movies are simple. What it all started in this movie when Dr. Victor Frankenstein heads his way to Universal Studios Hollywood. Alvin and his chipmunk brothers, Simon and Theodore, have found themselves getting ambushed by his latest creation, Frankie, who is depicted as a Frankenstein's monster creature who is probably trying to get them all killed. However, when Frankie becomes interested in making a special bond with Theodore, as they notice that Alvin finds out that they have to work together with Frankie to prove that they could make sure they can make peace with him in case he's very gentle to everyone in their neighborhood. Well, much to David Seville's charging in case Dave is trying to grab them all. However, it turns out when Victor kidnaps Alvin, Simon and Theodore and Frankie hatch out a plan to rescue Alvin from Victor, who has transformed him into this pervertedly sex-crazed monster out of himself. However, even though he runs around like Monkey Bone, causing the chaos of harassing everyone at the theme park, this causes an ambush for Frankie to turn on his creator Victor after Simon and Theodore have killed Alvin with some sort of purple soup to save his whole life from dying. Even though, just because Victor got stuck in a squirrel suit called Sammy Squirrel, in what Yesman warned him not to wear it, for some reason, it just dealt with some sort of weird gecko ending involving around Frankie now getting a new job at the theme park as a tour guide driver. Frankie's master Victor is shown to be off-screen in his castle trying to think of a new idea during nighttime at his castle. And then, in Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman, after Alvin has a nightmare of himself being attacked by a lycanthropy creature, Dave notices that Alvin's watching too many monster movies. However, Alvin and his siblings, Simon and Theodore, have noticed that they are going to work together at the local school's rehearsal of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. However, to make things really worse, as it turns out that just because Alvin discovers that his brother Theodore has werewolf DNA after he got bitten by it, as I noticed that Theo got bitten by that werewolf, that Alvin noticed that according to his song Things Out There, Alvin mentions about an old wolfman trying to haunt them forever. It feels like a foreshadowing of what would happen. As I know, the main villain of this movie, Mr. Lawrence Talbot, looks nothing more like Lawrence at all. I'm guessing he looks like a cartoonish love child of Willem Dafoe for some reason. Now, speaking of Willem Dafoe, the funniest reason is that Dave, however, decides to turn off Madame Rhea's commercial in order to put Alvin to solitary confinement by getting rid of all of his stuff. Like, he decides to get rid of all the monster toys they had, and he's by saying, no more monsters, and no more werewolves, and no more Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then all of a sudden, Alvin was forced to go insane, like a mental patient in an asylum. And the craziest thing is that Simon, however, discovers that Theodore is a werewolf who has possessed so many superpowers than what you can imagine. I could imagine what they foreshadowed an interesting idea of what we got in Spider-Verse from all those ideas, out of all the ideas of the whole problem with Spider-Verse itself. I noticed that the Spider-Verse Spider-Bite scene is done 5 times in a row when it comes to having all 5 characters being Miles, Peter, Gwen, Penny, Spider-Man Noir, and last but not least, well, Spider-Ham. All 6 of these, characters just got bitten by 6 radioactive spiders, but only 5 humans were bitten by the spiders, and only 1, who was a pig, got bitten by his own spider. In what I think it appears to be like some sort of a cross between a tarantula and a wolf spider have merged together to create some sort of crazy freak baby. Yeah, speaking of that, I had no idea what is happening to this movie. Even though, as Theodore's puberty begins to hit from a moment of what you saw in Kipo, in case there's a partial transformation, what I saw in Kipo, the moment Theodore achieves his full werewolf form, it's like how Keeper Oak became addicted to goat cheese from this moment she's turned into a were-jaguar. It sounded very, very familiar, but children these days have to learn about why I'm a were-jaguar too. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, even by puberty standards. Now, speaking of puberty, although the Chipmunks are involved in it, like Brittany, Eleanor, and most notably Jeanette, for some reason, the funniest thing is that just because they were absent from a pig and Alvin the Chipmunks meet Frankenstein means that Theo realizes that this necklace that Eleanor had is pretty much attracting to him to make sure he could change his ways of being a good guy. And throughout the climax of what is going on with this movie, Willem Dafoe activates his mutation as a werewolf in his lycanthropy form of a weird-looking mutant creature hybrid between a lion and most notably a goblin. Making sure that he hates Silver means that the full moon had infected his radioactive DNA from the canister of that silver-sabled wolf staff thing, the little staff thing. In what Lawrence hates everything to do with the colour silver, it means there's only one thing he's after. He's probably after Theo to get revenge on him on what he did to his dog. However, the craziest part is where the final battle takes place at the climax of the entire battle. The battle where the moment you saw, this is going to be a really funny moment. From the moment you see Lawrence in his werewolf form battling Alvin from the moment you saw Lawrence battling Theodore in his werewolf form, it is extremely terrifying what you saw Scar jump scaring you on the screen of a fiery background in what he's threatening to kill Simba at the climax of The Lion King. It's kind of shocking, but however, it all comes crashing down when Theodore bites Lawrence's hand off. It causes Lawrence to be brought down to normal, and then he runs away in shame to get back to his new clothes. Meanwhile, as the principal that we know of, we all knew that just because I understood about why the head mistress is leaving, she's gonna get put on a bus, and everyone's gonna feel sad about her leaving. We noticed that just because Milliken is preparing to leave the high school, and just because Nathan understood why his father, Lawrence, discovered why he's now the new principal, means that it turns out that Brittany has a brand new idea that they can all have a dance party ending to put away those differences. And what they've already talked through the problems of why Theodore was trying to make peace with Mr. Talbot. Yeah, it's kind of shocking, but after that, it ends with so abruptly with this extremely abrupt dance party ending, and it's kind of bland. But from the bad qualities of both of the movies, according to Adapt Now, just because the Chipmunks were absent for the first film, including Miss Miller, they appeared in this one as well. But in a deleted scene, Lawrence Talbot was set to be killed on screen and never turned back to a human or to become the new principal. Instead, Theodore would pretty much bite him by finding a way to remove the curse, unless he would try and pretty much disintegrate Talbot to death into bones and dust in front of the audience. Although they all think it's a special effect, but Ross Bagdasari and Jr. and Jazz Carmen both thought it would be too scary and was changed to a more lighter tone. Even though the movie is based on Alvin and Chipmunks, in this episode called Theodore's Life as a Dog and Queen of the High School Ballroom, the problem is, just because Dave Seville was a minor antagonist, means that we were supposed to be getting Alvin and the Chipmunks meet Dracula, which were dealt with Simon getting bitten by Dracula to become a vampire, and it was only up to Alvin and Simon to save him before Simon would become a spiritual successor to the previous two monsters that both Alvin and Simon were. However, this movie got scrapped for unknown reasons and was later retooled into all of its key elements being recycled into The Road Warrior, which came out on July 10th, 2021, also dealt with Theodore joining a motorcycle gang of vampires, in what Alvin sounds his alarm when he believes that Theodore is a vampire. It's kind of interesting, but that's kind of very fun to explore. Despite the whole ransom of what I could think of, I'd say I'd give both the movies. I found a lucky number. I think there has to be a brilliant number I can think of. I think I'll go with... This must be my lucky day. 7. Aha! 7.6 out of 10. There. And there you have it. I have decided to give both Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein and Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman a solidly decent 7.6 out of 10. As I noticed that these two were the last Alvin and the Chipmunks animated productions to use hand-painted cels, although 15 years later, in 2015, the entire franchise would shift into CGI animation. Well, when it first joined on Nickelodeon in 2015 in the United Kingdom. Although it's kinda nice and simple and sweet, I'd say all I could give this lesson is, when there's monsters out there, you do have to believe first in discovering that monsters can still make peace with them, including you and your friends and family. But if you liked, hit the like button and subscribe. In case you do this, in case I say, from now on, this is me, Soho Kamura, signing off. So, bye-bye!